Hey, Sean Crane here in Barbados, man. Chilling out with my long friend, Stephen Walmsley. We got him all the way from Australia, from Perth, right, Steve? You in
Yeah,
Perth
Perth.
right now?
Yeah.
Tell you a little background about Steve. Oh, it's hot in here. It must be like 90 degrees out here, Stevie, man. Just been swimming with the sharks all afternoon. It's brilliant. Dolphins, sharks, turtles, you name it. Brilliant. Love Barbados, man. So, Stephen was a former player of mine when I was coaching Division 1 at the college level. He was my captain, was player of the year. He was Mr. Everything, brainy like crazy, had a straight A average. Kid's fantastic, but I tell you what, he is going to be a massive big-time football coach. And Steve's in Perth, and we're going to talk a little bit about his story. Stevie, what time is it in Perth?
It is 6 a.m. in the morning, nice and early.
Is that the earliest you've ever been up?
Cup of coffee.
Is that the earliest?
No, I used to get up a lot earlier when I was playing for you in the weight room.
In the weight room, get up at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Brutal. It's been a while since I've seen you, son. How long's it been?
I think the last time I was in the States up in Connecticut was maybe 2017, 16, 17.
2017.
Just a short visit.
I wore this T-shirt in your honor. I'll tell you why. Because when I watched him play, the centre midfield play, the finesse, he played more like a number 6, but the finesse on the ball, his penetration on the ball, his work rate, energizer, but his leadership qualities were absolutely amazing. Every time he did something spectacular, I used to shout, "Get in there, son."
Bringing back memories.
So, Stephen, I recruited you many moons ago from Australia. I'd never seen you play, and I got some great video footage from you playing. But the thing that sealed the deal for me was a coach called Kenny Weston. Tell me a bit about Kenny Weston.
So it was quite fortunate, really, because Kenny wasn't someone who coached me consistently, but he was part of the program and the environment that I was in. So I knew a bit about him.
And what team? Do you tell viewers what team this was?
So I'm in Perth, Western Australia. So we had a program called the NTC, the National Training Centre, which was linked to Perth Glory, which is our professional club here, our A-League club. So I was in that environment training, and Kenny was an NTC coach, but he wasn't my consistent coach, but he was in that environment all the time. So I'd see him at games and training sessions, and he'd work with us every now and then. And yeah, and never forget just getting a Facebook message from him one day saying, "Would you ever be interested in going to the States?" And at that time, so that was around 2010, 2011, I'd never heard much about that, because I didn't know anyone who'd been over, just didn't know much about that pathway at all. So I just replied, yes. He said, "Okay, I'll be in touch." And then it wasn't shortly after I spoke to him on the phone, and he's explaining the whole system to me, and I'm like, this sounds crazy, And it always strikes me, because I've got a great relationship with Kenny now, and I did then, but he wasn't my full-time coach. He was just someone who, on an off chance, had seen me play and took a liking to me, or when he's chatted to me on the side, he's took a liking to me. And even now, when things happen in my life, I'm like, it is interesting. Sometimes it's people that you wouldn't expect that kind of create that pathway for you,
Right. When Kenny contacted me, the reason I had faith in Kenny, because he spent that spring season as my assistant coach, one of my assistant coaches. So he knew the setup that I had, he knew the standard I had. And he's a straight up guy. He doesn't bullshit, A good player is a good player. When he tells you this player can play, you take that to the bank. You don't even have to question it. So I didn't really question it. I did question it the first day of preseason when I saw you play. And I thought he's going to be a lot bigger. He looks a lot bigger on the video than he does in real life. You look like you're 12 years old when you first showed up, But man, it didn't take you long to show me that you're a player, You just dominated the scene from your first week there till your last week there. We had some great success when you played for us too.
Yeah, it's funny, because thinking back now, especially from a coaching point of view, and how I'd look at me as a player, I don't pass the eye test. Like you say, you look at me and think, especially back then, it's just a little skinny scouser there, nothing, no meat on the bones, and
Right.
I'd always been confident in my ability to play football,
Right.
but I think that was like the biggest transition for when I went to America, was just the physicality of it, because it's not like I've been playing in England. I moved to Australia when I was 10, so football here is a bit different to England and probably not as physical. So no worries whatsoever about how I could play football, but 99% of the game you haven't got the ball. So straight away it was just a wake-up call, like, you need to get going, you need to get stronger, faster, and just smarter about how you can use your body, because it's not the biggest.
What's your most memorable moment playing in America and going to college here?
I think that third year when we won the league was special, and there's a few moments in there. The one that sticks out that I always think of as like a good memory and always makes me smile is when we played Sacred Heart. So if you remember right, they kicked off the game, they scored within 30 seconds.
Right.
We've got the ball, kicked off and scored.
Right.
And then they've kicked off and scored again. So the score's 2-1 within about 2 minutes. I'm just seeing you on the side looking at us, and I think, oh God, what's going on? And then it was 3-1 at half time. And I always remember your team talk was along the lines of, there's two ways this will go. Option number one is you'll give up and this will be 10-1. Or option number two, you'll win 4-3. What do you want to do? And then, funnily enough, 70th minute, we get one back, 3-2, 3-3, and then I think it was the overtime.
Extra time. And you know what? We're not making this stuff up, okay? Yeah, we're down 3-1 at halftime. I say to the guys, we're going to win this game. And let me tell you what the score's going to be. It's going to be 4-3. And if you remember correctly, Steve, I said, you're going to score, you're going to score, and you're going to score. And the three blokes I picked all scored. And the English lad scored the winner, didn't he?
Connor Coulter.
Connor, great kid. He scored the winner with like 2 minutes in extra time. And over in America, in the college level, back then, it was sudden death. Whoever scored the first goal, 20 minutes extra time, but if you scored, it was over and everybody celebrated. There's not a better way to win, but it absolutely sucks losing that way. I can tell you that. Stephen, after you graduated at Central Connecticut, you got many honors at Central Connecticut. Well, let me just backtrack a second. Now, I do want to say this to you because I don't think people hear this enough. That as a coach, I've impacted a lot of people's lives from many different countries, all of the United States, who come play for me, because I think if I hadn't interfered or been persuasive in my recruiting tactics, we could have went, other direction. They've come into that. And a lot of my players who leave, have great memories. Some of them who have had great opportunities, they leave your program, you never hear from them again, And I think that boils down to personality and gratitude. I come from a working class family in Newcastle, England, and I think that you were one of the most humble, selflessness players I've ever seen, with great talent, unbelievable leadership, who maximized his opportunity when he got it, who played fully beyond his potential, always striving for that. A great example on the pitch, but also a great example in the classroom. And you epitomize everything that's great about college football in the United States, And players are hard to replace like you. I'm telling you, I could put 3 or 4 players, count over 35-year career of coaching that would match you, who's right up there with you. So I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate all the effort you give me as a player and respect. And, one of my fun memories was the team talk in the locker room. I think it was before St. Francis, and we actually clinched the league. I'm not sure. Yes, it was.
Pencils?
And the pencils. We give you the 11 pencils there too. The whole thing was, we got Stephen up in the locker room and asked him to break a pencil in two, and he broke it, and he was really proud of himself for breaking a pencil because he'd just been working out in the weight room. Then I took 11 pencils and asked him to break them, and it's very difficult. You can't do it, a short grip trying to break that. And the whole moral of the story was what, Stevie?
Well, if you stick together, you'll achieve. You can't be broken.
Yeah. You're stronger in numbers, aren't you? For a team, we're unbeatable. And the strength of that team lies in the numbers. And I think it's just a great analogy. I didn't make that up. I borrowed that from somewhere in the book. I heard that it wasn't for soccer, but I thought it was relative. And I always try to look for things like that. So you graduated from Central Connecticut, and during your time at Central Connecticut, you played for the PDL, right?
Yeah.
Down in Florida at Ocala, if I'm correct.
Ocala Stampede.
Tell us a little bit about Ocala. What was that like?
What I will say, actually, just to touch on, I appreciate all of the kind things you said. One of the reasons why I come to Central was that I had a few schools after Kenny had been out there. I had a few phone calls from a few different schools, but it was the way you were treating me that made my mind up very, very early on in the process, that if I was going there, I was going to you. So I always remember, and laugh about it now, but we'd speak on the phone, and then you'd schedule the next phone call and say, I'm not allowed to speak to you because of NCAA rules until this day, but on this day, I'm calling you. So obviously at the other end of the phone on this side of the world, I'm thinking, this fella's calling me, all the time, like, and saying, I want you to play for me. That's someone I want to play for,
Hey, before we move on, I appreciate that, Stevie, so much. Before we move on, how's your brother John doing?
He's doing really well, yeah. He's still coaching, and he's got a football academy here in Perth.
Is that right? Mum and Dad are doing well?
Yeah, all good, all good.
How about your family back in Liverpool? Yes, he is a Scouser. Even though he doesn't talk like the Beatles right now, he is a Scouser.
Yeah, and all good as far as I know. Obviously, it's a bit worse in England at the minute, but yeah, everyone's safe and well that I know of.
You must be happy though, Liverpool.
When it's finished. No, it's been great.
Should they be awarded the league championship or not?
Ideally, it gets finished. Well,
if it's not finished.
But I mean, at any stage of football resumes, what's to say that a second wave doesn't come in and then the next season's void?
But do you think, if let's say hypothetically, they don't finish the Premier League season, they're trying to start, finish off in summer. Let's say they don't. Based on the results so far, do you think Liverpool should be awarded the championship?
I mean, it's because you're so far into the seasons, 29 games in, I suppose there's an argument for it. But there's also the argument to say you need to finish every game, because, I mean, it's football and anything can happen. So your bottom team can win every game. And your top team can lose. Do
you think, is a question for you, do you think it's tougher for the fans, tougher for the players, right? For the Liverpool fans, Liverpool players, if they are not awarded the championship, or do you think it's tougher that the team that was top of the championship don't get promotion?
The team that's top of the championship, yeah. And this is what I keep saying when I'm having the debate, is that Liverpool's almost the easy one. You're 20-something points clear. But in terms of next season, who plays Champions League and who doesn't? Because that's massive to, your Man Uniteds, your Chelseas, your Arsenals. Who gets relegated and who doesn't? Who comes up and who doesn't? They're bigger questions with more financial implications than the top one.
The difference between being in a championship and getting in the Premier League is $190 million to the club.
Ridiculous.
$190 million. It's phenomenal. Have you ever watched a documentary about Leeds United? The latest, where they just missed out on promotion?
I've seen the Damn United, the one.
No, this is different. Damn United is probably one of the best football. I mean, Brian Clough was my mentor. I never met him, but two coaches I wanted to be like. I mean, I loved Shankly. I met Shankly. I'll tell you about that today. But two coaches that I admired who inspired me, I used to, anything I could hear them talk, was Brian Clough, like everybody else. And the other one was Malcolm Allison. I don't know if you've ever heard of Malcolm Allison. Malcolm Allison, Man City. He was at Man City. He was at a bunch of clubs, but flamboyant, great coach. I mean, innovator, real innovator. He was one of the first people to introduce, music into training sessions and all the different kind of things like the small-sided games. And it's a documentary I want you to watch. Google it, because it's not on Netflix or anything like that. It's called City, right? And it was produced by Granada in the early 80s. And it gives you a really inside look into Malcolm Allison coaching at Man City. He eventually gets to Cannes and goes to Aston Villa, I think. Not Aston Villa, Crystal Palace. And but the insight into real-life professional football, it's great back then. They're all smoking cigarettes in the locker room, like at Damn United. At half-time, these have a fad. You just have a cigarette, half an orange, a cigarette, and some of them, like Leeds United, that's what they would do. Crazy, yeah?
Yeah.
So you finished. You went from Central Connecticut. Well, you went to Central Connecticut. You went to Ocala with the PDL. How was it there?
Brilliant. Probably one of the best things I did as well. So that was every summer for 2 to 3 months. We had about 20 of us would live in these apartments down in Ocala, Florida, which was about an hour north of Orlando. And we were playing against Orlando City, teams in Tampa, teams in Miami. Just especially being in that, in that area of the world for the summertime was great on its own. But the setup was really good. We got looked after really well. And then, so I played there 4 seasons and we won the league.
Who owns that club? Who owned it?
So now they changed ownership. So now it's known as the Villages. So it's like a different, and I'm not too sure what's happening with it now with the whole new USL 2 thing. But at the time, for 4 years, so we won the league, we won our conference every year, and then we got to the Final Four last year. But I think what was good was obviously with college, we played a lot of teams along the East Coast, and it was freezing cold most of the time. So it was a certain type of football. And then in the summer, all of a sudden it's a lot hotter. It's not as intense, but it was more technical, a bit more tactical, which probably suited me a bit. But then we got to play teams in Mississippi and Texas and, on the West Coast. And so I sort of got a lot of America boxed off by playing for that team as well as Central.
I saw quite a few of your games online, especially the championship game. What was it? Where's that? Is it Michigan, somewhere like that, indoors?
Yeah, we played Michigan Bucks. Yeah,
they got the guy who runs that. I forgot his name now. He really runs a good program there for sure. It has been for years. So let me ask you. Hold on 1 second. What are you drinking? Rum punch? Excuse me. 2 rum punches, please, over here, and a couple of margaritas. Bring them right over, Stevie.
It's too early.
I've just got a little isolated part. The beach is packed down there. It's crazy. Absolutely. So, Stevie, tell me about. You were recruited to go to Iceland as a player, versus a player or a coach, or player-coach. As a player. Tell our viewers, Stephen went to Iceland. Shoot, Stephen. Give us a story. So
it links back into Ocala. So in the summers, I played for Ocala, and I played with a guy called Kenny Hogg. And I always laugh because his name was Kenny as well, and it was a Facebook message how this started. But Kenny played for Palm Beach Atlantic PBA. Division 2 school, but I think around 2013, 14ish, he was top scorer in the nation. So he had 20 odd goals for Division 2. So he ended up signing in Iceland. So I'd left America. I'm back in Australia. I'm teaching, playing here, and he messages me and says, "Oh, mate, I'm going to Iceland. I've just signed for the team." So I've said, "Congratulations, delighted for you. Let me know when I can join you." And then 2 days later, he said, "You'll never guess what's happened." I went, "Oh." He said, "Midfielders got injured. We're looking for a midfielder. I've told them to sign you." Right. So I've laughed and brilliant, thinking it's funny. And then got a phone call and they said, "Oh, we're interested." So the same thing, there's videos of me playing, and I had some footage from Central, and that was on a Friday, I think it was. And then on the Sunday, I was there.
What was it like what was your first impression when you arrived there?
It was insane. It was just nothing like I'd ever imagined. So even coming to America, there's so many people, and it's a certain lifestyle where there it was so isolated. So it was in the north of Iceland, a place called Sauðárkrókur. So you land in Keflavik, and it was about 4.5 hour drive up to the north, and it's a little town, 2,000 people.
How far is that from Reykjavik?
About 3.5 hours, 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, just because the sunlight at that time of year, it doesn't get dark. So I'm sitting in my room.
It's like 24 hours, right?
Oh, it's ridiculous. So it's so light in the room. It's got like the worst curtains. The curtains are like white. So it's just,
why is that though? Why is it that again, Iceland? Some parts of the year it's dark all year round, right? All day round, right?
In the winter, yeah, because it's just because it's so far north. Obviously, yeah, sunlight all the time. But I always remember sitting in the room, and as I say, the room's dead bright, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. But it felt like it looks like your background now. It's just weird, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? And
did you see can you see the aurora borealis from up there? Or?
Yeah, we saw it every couple of nights, which was brilliant. And that's something where I've took pictures of it, but they just don't look good. It doesn't look like it looks.
I thought it was all volcanoes and geysers and hot springs. And did you get to those? Did you get to see that kind of part of it too?
Yeah. So there was a hot spring not far from us, so that used to be our post game thing. So we play a game, and then a few of the lads we'll go for a warm down in the hot spring, which was good.
That's fantastic. The best teams in Iceland, Stevie, are they comparable to what's standard in England?
I don't know really. It's hard to say. So what I found, because obviously in college your ages of your players are from 18 to say 24, and that was similar with like your PDL. You might get one or two that were older. The difference with Iceland was, it wasn't like the standard was amazing, but you would have those older players and men who knew what they were doing mixed in with the young players as well. So that made the difference. Coming from America, it was physical, it was fast, but everyone was around my age and young, and then you're playing there, and all of a
different
sudden,
style. Was there anything about the style of play, or the anything that struck you that was new?
What I found interesting was that everyone played the same way and played 4-3-3 or like a 4-2-3-1. Everyone set up the same way, so it was always having a number 10, having two wide players.
Why was that?
Like, no idea. I don't know. It's like a coaching initiative there that that was the system at the time, because around that time is when Iceland were doing well in the Euros, but they were more set up like a 4-4-2. Because I was there when they beat England, and I'm in some big hall with a bunch of Icelandic people going crazy as they beat England. But yeah, they all set up the same way, which sort of, for me as a player, I enjoyed it a bit, because I thought, well, I know exactly what you're going to do, so I know exactly how to counter that, as opposed to turning up on a Saturday and thinking, what are these doing here? I can't figure out how they're playing. So everyone kind of did the same thing.
What about the language?
So most people speak good English, but so there was me and two others who were foreigners, but our team talks were usually in Icelandic. So we'd sit there and not really know what's going on. And then, it's a big rally at the end. And then the coaches would usually speak to us as an individual group. They've all got a decent level of English.
How old were you then, Stephen?
At first year, I was 22. 22.
Now listen to this. He goes over there. I'm pointing that way because it's like a mirror image on camera, but Stevie goes over to Iceland as a player. Now, he is a very educated player, and he's one of these students, one of these players of the game who just absorb everything he can. He's a real pupil of football tactics, and football coaching, and methodology. So he goes over there and plays. He ends up being the coach of the team. How did that happen?
So, finished the season, came back to Australia because that's where my family is and where I'm based, and then I'm obviously in contact with the team, and at the time it was only a one year contract. But their season runs from like April, May time to October. So it was after that. And then the coach moved to Sweden with his family. So all that was left was the assistant coach. And then for whatever reason, the assistant coach ended up leaving as well. So the chairman's called and said, obviously, we want you back as a player. That first year, I actually coached the under-14s. So they knew a little bit about me as a coach, and we'd done really well. I think we finished first in our league. And then we had like a Reykjavik Cup, and we won that Reykjavik Cup as well with the 14s. And he said, listen, we need a coach while we look for someone. So I flew over straight away. So I'm there, I'm 22, 23, coaching. Most of the lads were older than me,
right?
But I'm coaching that team, and then I think they were kind of pleased with how it was going, and they just said, we'll just leave you in charge then. So in hindsight, I'm looking back thinking, it was definitely you know, I was a bit too young for it, and you know, made a million mistakes and done a million things I'd never.
What was the
do
biggest
again.
mistake you made? So I've made millions. I've made loads of
Yeah,
like.
probably just trying to do things too quickly. You know, I think
Like
changes.
what? Give me an example.
Just in terms of trying to establish like a certain level of professionalism, you know, and like this is how we train, and you know, being on time and all those kind of things. But that kind of clashed a bit with the culture, you know, because
What about the older players? How did they treat you?
so some were great and then some didn't like it, and that was, you know, expected because I was so young. But and that's my point, where I probably tried to implement things really quickly. So I had all these great ideas and I'm enthusiastic and, you know, I'm buzzing to have the opportunity. But then it's like, well, it's going to take time to put those things in place, and you can't win everyone over. You know, it's different if, you know, you've known people for years and people know your character. I'd obviously been there as a player, but like you say, on the coaching side of things, you've sort of got to prove yourself again. So that's like lots of Premier League players who, you know, go into coaching, and then it's a completely different game, you know.
What you see, you forget. Okay, what you hear, you remember. But what you do, you know. And just having that experience where you're not just watching it or listening to somebody coach, bang, you're doing it at such a young age. You know, what a great opportunity. And whether you fall down 7 times, I know you're going to get up 8 times. You know what I'm saying? Whether you make those mistakes, it's that's how you are as a player, and that player transfers in there. I had that problem when I started coaching, though, at the college level. I was the youngest coach in Division One. I was just turned 25. I was a senior in college. They hired me right out of school. And the guys I'm coaching were the same age. They're roughly the seniors. And what I wanted to be their friend. That was the biggest mistake I made my first year. I wanted them to like me, you know? And I want to be a friend. And, you know, it was a whole different relationship. And I learned as I went on, it's that boundary there. You've got to keep that distance and professionalism.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because it was almost, that was a difficult line for me to tread, because the year before I was just a teammate, and that first year, funnily enough, we won 17 games in a row, which was
unbelievable. That's phenomenal.
Insane. And so it was just this big wave of just momentum that it just carried us through. And that was brilliant to be a part of, but obviously you were never ever going to achieve that again. But like the bar was kind of set. But that second year, I was very wary of what you were saying, of like, I don't want to be too close here, where I'm seen to be treating people as favourites because I was mates with them, you know, a bit closer the year before. So I almost detached myself a little bit. And then in hindsight, it's like I probably detached myself too far. You know, it's almost like I was maybe a bit too serious at times, when I didn't need to be serious. I just needed to treat people like people instead of, you know, being that role.
There's 350,000 population, I think, in Iceland, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It's not a huge population compared to the United States. Why are they more successful in the international arena? Or lately, why have they been more successful than a country which have some of the best athletes in the world?
You know, I don't want to say access and facilities, but it's just ingrained in their culture. So a good example is in the summertime, they've got that advantage of sunlight all the time. So summertime, it can be 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and it'll be just as bright as it is behind you, and kids will be playing out. And because it's so safe, you'll have young kids that are just playing out, that aren't like under any, you know, parental supervision. They're just playing. So they play a lot. And then I think it was in the early 2000s, the Icelandic FA put a lot of money into it and built football houses. So it's like those indoor facilities that you see all the time.
Right.
And they also built, it's like outdoor, it's almost like a little 5-a-side pitch on turf. So we used to train on it, actually, because at the time we didn't have a turf outside pitch, but we had this little 5-a-side pitch. So when the snow would come too much, our warm-up was essentially shoveling snow off this little 5-a-side turf pitch, and it was about 20 by 40.
Right.
They've got access to play all the time, really, and I suppose the only competition there is basketball. Basketball is quite big, but in terms of other sports, nothing's really that prominent. So there's not much competition. Where I think in America, it's great that you've got all these sports, but I think that does take away, like you say, from some of those.
And the people in Iceland, gorgeous women in the world, right? They're all models there. I've never seen anybody who's not a model from Iceland. Guys, girls, they're all models. And I'll tell you why, because one of my best friends, Stefan Sigurdsson, he went to college and played for me. He's from Reykjavik. And this guy was a model for Adidas, right? So when he graduated, I was working as a bartender in the pub. I said, bring your parents. All these people come from Iceland to watch him graduate from university. I said, come on, I'll take care of you. I'm a bartender at the bar, the club, only nightclub in the town. So they brought him, and it was like a fashion runway. His sisters, his cousins, they were all like most beautiful people you've ever seen in your life. Are they all like that or not?
Well, it's funny you say that. So I met Stefan.
Right.
Because I think you'd said, it's the Sweet come down and watch one of our games. So I met him. He was a cool.
Great guy, right? Great guy.
Yeah, no, it is funny. Yeah,
I remember the story you told me, man, made me laugh about how, because small country, they're all related, I think, down.
Yeah.
Spain, right? From generations, and they had an app or something. Tell me about that again.
Yeah. So I didn't really believe it until I saw it. So it's their own version of Facebook. It's called Icelandabook, I think. And essentially, everyone's related because everyone's a descendant from this Viking guy. So if you were to go out and meet someone that you liked, obviously you'd check how closely related you were first, because it's not just a high chance, it's a definite chance that you are related, so it's like a number system. So if this person shows up as like a number 1 or 2, I think that's the
first cousin,
and then the 3, 4, 5, and it goes down.
At what level down there do you not hook up with somebody? What's the gauge there?
To me teammates, and one of them said he didn't care, and I thought, well, that says a lot about you.
It probably depends. It probably goes up the more drinks you have, I'd imagine, But the other interesting thing you shared with me, Stephen, was when you came back and I was talking to you, was about the how comfortable you felt there in terms of safety, and you said people just leave the car doors, windows down, and the keys in the car, and you could just.
It was almost like that. Like a little small haven. So not only Iceland's small in itself, so I think Reykjavik's slightly different, but our town was like 2,000 people. The nearest town's like half an hour away. So you could walk past any car at any time, and if you just take a glance in, usually the keys are in there. Right. So
how many cars did you hijack, man?
Not too many, actually.
You could start your own Uber business.
But like me and my mates, the Scottish boy and the English boy that I was with, we couldn't believe that, because it's just, even just locking your front door and stuff, they're just, everything's kind of open, or at least it was where we were. Part of it, obviously, made you feel a bit weird because we're not used to that. But then part of it was really nice. It was like, well, I've got that much trust in the people around me that I don't really care. So like I remember one of our teammates just being like, yeah, you can borrow my car to go wherever you need to go, to the shop or whatever. Right. And then we said, all right, where's the keys? And no, it's in. Like just go take it, they're in there.
So Stephen, after that you went to Georgia Southern Division 1 team.
Yeah, so I came back to Australia and I was working here. So I'm a teacher. I got my teaching degree through Central, so I teach physical education and soccer at the school I'm at. Yeah, so came back and was doing that, and then got an opportunity to be a graduate assistant there. So it was through someone I'd played against. He was an assistant coach there, and yeah, I took that opportunity. So that was in the fall of 2018, and again that was similar, where just an opportunity that I felt like I had to take. Everything kind of lined up. And
how many of my drills did you use from SoccerCoachTV?
How many do you want me to say?
I know you've stolen a couple of them. Come on, man, because I steal them from all over the world. Man. You kidding me?
It always makes me laugh. I'd actually done it one time with my young kids in Iceland. So it was like competition time. Remember the old Scoopy Flicky over the goal
Yeah.
and then the back of the net?
Kids love that.
It's like a revelation.
You got to make them smile. I don't care if the pros, I don't care if the college players. I mean, when you played for me, that when you guys come to practice every day, I'd often make sure that you give two people a hug, or you give somebody a high five. I would just have you stand there for 30 seconds with your arms out facing the sun and just realizing that we get to do what we love every day with who we love and where we love to be. And when you start taking football too seriously, when you take the game, be competitive, be professional, be disciplined. But, there's more things in life. Don't sacrifice your family or your relationship with your girlfriend or everything else just for one sport. And, I'm passionate. I've been in this game my whole life, but I think you've got to kind of have a balance, I think, to be happy.
I think that's something I'm telling kids at school, the ones that I teach all the time, is that like most of the lessons I've learned in my life have been through football, and those lessons, a lot of them are nothing to do with football, right. But just dealing with adversity, working with people that you maybe don't quite get along with, dealing with the setbacks, dealing with the successes, and staying level-headed, everything that I sort of know about, just general life, it's almost always been learned through football. So even when something happens in the news or this pandemic, I'm always trying to come up with an analogy of football,
right. Well, here's the interesting thing, because this is a project that I'm personally working on right now. I don't know if I shared it with you, but I'm writing a book right now, and it's called Coaching Losers, right? And it is the whole premise of the book is that every book I read is about how to play like Liverpool, Man City, how to be a champion, how to be number one, and everything. But the whole reality of it, Stephen, is that there are teams that exist in the bottom of the league in every sport all over the world at every age group, from middle school all the way through to your top pros. And surviving at the bottom of the league is a whole different skill set as a coach than it is if you're 25 points ahead of everybody else at the top of the league. And so the premise of this book that I'm trying to investigate and to figure out is that you talk about the lessons in football, lessons in life, right? We can sit here and we could write a long list of life lessons you learn from football. But however, I'm going to challenge that. And I'll tell you why, because I always feel that the longest serving lessons that I've learned, the ones that have resonated with me and continue to resonate with me as I get older and have helped me through, are the ones I've learned when I was in really tough situations, than rather hanging around the pub with my mates having a good time or being top of the league. Listen, there are no villains when you win a match, There's a multitude of sins, hidden victories. Would you agree with that? But when you lose, you self-analyze, right? The coach analyzes it. You break down the game. You analyze every single mistake that you've made. So the question that I'm trying to figure out is, in the long run, do you become a better person, stronger person, if you've been in an unsuccessful team than a championship team? It's a question. Is it a relative question or not?
I suppose it's just, you need to have those moments where things don't go your way. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I always remember being in the airport. So I'm on my way to America for the first time. So I'm in Australia and I say goodbye to my family. And obviously they're in tears and I'm in tears. I remember standing in line with my passport, waiting to go through. And I just had like a little moment where I was like, this is the moment now where you can turn back and just run back to them. And this doesn't need to happen, because I was just terrified, And then before I knew it, I was through and I thought, well, I'm through now, I'm going, just give it a go. But when I first got to Iceland, I remember sitting in that room and I had a similar feeling, but it's like, where am I? Like, I looked at my map and on my phone and thought, where in the world am I? But then looking back now, like that first week or two in America made me, because I was just so far out of my comfort zone. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what I was doing. It was the same there. So I think you need to have those moments. So there's definitely a truth to,
And Stephen, I honestly believe that I believe that some of the biggest decisions you make in your life are not after weeks or months of contemplation and planning. Some of the biggest decisions you make in life are split second. And that's what happened to you. Twice. In a split second. You didn't sit in the airport for hours thinking, should I not? It was there. Should I go? Bang. You thought about it, quick analyze, and you move on. And it's appeared positive for you. But I do want to move on, Stevie, because are you working today or?
Yeah, I've got time now. You good?
Okay. All right. I do have a few questions for you. I am going to ask you some very serious questions right now. Let me just pull up my questions that are written down because I do a lot of research on my guests. So, pull up my questions I thought I had. I want to know, you've been to Thailand, right?
Yeah.
Vietnam, Australia, Spain. I think I've seen pictures of you in Spain, Barcelona, right? Where do you get all the money from? You're a multimillionaire, what? You're like an international playboy, traveling around the world.
No, do
you plan for these trips, save up money for these trips, or are you just absolutely loaded?
It's just prioritizing that's part of the life that I want to have. And it's not that these are luxury trips, I'm not staying at the Ritz or anything. It's,
what was Thailand?
Brilliant. That was, honestly, I'm really glad I did that trip because that was right before this whole thing kicked off. So I did 10 days in Thailand and 15 in Vietnam, me and my brother. It was brilliant. So we did 5 different places, but then each place we'd do a food tour. So usually they pick you up on a motorbike.
That's great.
On the back of the motorbike and then take you to 6 or 7 different food places and you try their local cuisine.
What's the one thing you take away from Thailand?
The food, brilliant. I did a cooking class.
I love Thai food. I love Thai food.
Brilliant.
Can you cook, Stevie? You mastered cooking yet?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm not too bad.
Are you actually teaching right now? Going to school and teaching, or what's the situation in Australia?
Yeah. So so I've took on this role. So my brother was a teacher at the school and ran the soccer program. He's moved on, and I've took his role. So it's like 50% of my job is the football program, the soccer program, and 50% phys ed lessons. But we had 2 weeks off for Easter. Now we're back, but we're back to 91% attendance.
91%?
Attendance.
That's pretty good. But how about from the social distance standpoint in the classroom? They all spread out, or room in the classroom for that to happen?
What they've done is they've sort of said it doesn't apply to schools, which there's a bit of debate about. But then for sports, they've told us, listen, you can do things, but they've got to be distant. So we're doing like athletics where there's just minimal contact.
Right.
And then, I'm coming up with things. I've done a lot of the online stuff, the skills challenges, but we're doing like, football, tennis and things like that to try and get around it.
All right, I'm going to ask you a few questions, Stevie. Hold on a second. Let me pull up my research papers right now. Hold on a second. All right. Who the hell is Peppermint Showers?
Peppermint Showers?
Yeah.
They are a band in Perth. Do you know?
You've got it as a favourite on your Facebook page. Peppermint Showers. Are they any good?
There is. So there's a guy who's a teacher at my school, and he's head of the department, and secretly he's in a band, or maybe not so secretly, in Perth. I think that's his band. I'm pretty sure.
Maroon 5. That's what you listen to. That's on your playlist.
Yeah, when I was a kid. Yeah, even now, like them now. The old stuff though.
Stereophonics. What kind of music's that, man?
Like
you forgot you even put this on your Facebook, didn't you?
Yeah, this was done pre to me and you, so must have been teenager.
Okay, here we go. Question. If there was an actor who wanted to play your life story up to date, pick one. Who would you pick?
I'm trying to think of all the good-looking fellas. None of them are Bonnie. There's an actor called Stephen Graham. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
He's from Liverpool. in the Damn United, I think he was Billy Bremner.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of stuff, but he's from Liverpool. You know what? He might have even done. Maybe it was him, or maybe it wasn't.
Does he look like you?
Not really, but it's more that he's from Liverpool, and I just like the way he presents himself. I think there was a documentary or something about Shankly, or something to do with Shankly. I think he played Bill Shankly as well. He's got it in him. I like him. I'd pick him.
I think if I had to pick somebody to be me in my movie, it'll either be Crocodile Dundee. Do you even know who he is?
Yeah, especially with that necklace.
Crocodile Dundee or Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt and Neon. We get mistaken all the time. You know what? My girlfriend was so excited. You know why? Because she heard everybody had to start wearing a mask, right? So she asked me if I could get online and get a Bradley Cooper mask. She wanted me to look like Bradley Cooper. It's terrible, man. Hold on. Do you have a secret talent, Stevie? And if you do, can you do it right now or not? What's your secret talent? Do you have any?
I play a little piano. I played a lot of piano when I was younger, and then I've sort of picked it up again with the lockdown recently.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I play piano. John's good. My brother's good. He plays
guitar. I had a player play for me one time called Wayne Peachy, right? And he played me for 4 years. Great play. He was at Aston Villa. I signed him from Aston Villa. Last game of the season after the championship ended, right? We went to this Olive Garden restaurant, the whole team. So that was his last game for me. So we go in there and they happen to have a karaoke, right? So he goes up on the mic. Everybody thought, somebody is going to be crap, you know what I mean? Stevie, he went up on the mic. He did Elvis Presley, like better than Elvis Presley. He was phenomenal. I said, are you shitting me? You played with me for 4 years. We could have you singing on the bus every time. You didn't shit with anybody. His dad is like this unbelievable singer, club singer. Goes from clubs, all over the place. His dad is an unbelievable singer. And let me tell you somebody's dad, Ron. There was a posting on Facebook last week, right? So, he's down this regular street in England, right? He cut the speakers outside of his house. And he comes out with a microphone. Somebody taped it on the telephone. My player's father. He gets on the mic and he starts singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." Hey, our tears are coming down my eyes. He was absolutely brilliant. It was just one of those moments, where you do something. You know what I'm saying? It was just like it felt great to listen to, and he must have been really, really, satisfied. Let me give you a couple more questions, then we'll wrap this up. All right. What's your guilty pleasure, son?
Guilty pleasure. You know what? I like a bit of chocolate. The chocolate man.
I just went out and bought a few.
So like Easter time and that, but yeah, I suppose I wouldn't like anyone to know that, but yeah, like the chocolate.
Let me just see here. You're gonna wear these glasses. If you could be the best in the world at something, what would it be?
Obviously, my first thoughts go sort of towards football and coaching, but I'm trying to scale it back and think of a more human quality. I suppose you just want to be the best fella you can be, in a pair of gnashes like yours.
Well, sure. You got to be serious now. Come on. It's time to be serious. I'm going to be like, wind the nose up. Hold on. Just. Stephen, listen. Hey, thanks a lot for coming on and SoccerCoachTV. And, get people watch us all around the world. I get emails literally every single day from you name it, from every continent, every country. So a lot of people are going to see this. I know they're going to be impressed by you. But I want to really thank you tremendously. You look great, son. Please give my love to your family and to your brother, John. Thank you for coming to the show, sharing your insights and sharing your thoughts and a lot of different things we talked about today. I appreciate it. Wish you the best, and I hope stay safe there in Australia. And we'll be catching up real soon.
Oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate the time to chat to you. It's been good. Looking well yourself.
Great to catch up with you, son. Great to catch up with you. So for my peeps out there at Soccer Coach TV land, thanks again for tuning in. Hey, my heart's with you all the time. I never take your time for granted. I'm so humbled by the fact that you would take the time to watch these videos. We'll see you next time on Soccer Coach TV.